Alright, the Reds, it's Monday morning, but don't let that put you off. The Reds are playing tonight. The Reds are playing Swansea tonight. It's on the telly. You probably already left if you're going there because it takes forever because you've got to go through like the whole of Wales and that to get there. Crap Monday night football because you've got to wait all weekend for it to happen. But don't worry, we've still got stuff to talk about. Me, Gareth Roberts, Craig Hannon, we'll always find something to talk about. Don't you worry about that. The weekend then, big wins for Chelsea and Arsenal, and the Manx, of course, scraping a win at Burnley. So that wasn't all great really for Liverpool's top four challenge and all that. But then Spurs gave us a little bit of a hope by only drawing, and so that means tonight that if the Reds can win, they'll get a 5-point gap over Spurs, an 8-point gap over Arsenal, and we need to make up a little bit of goal difference now on Chelsea. They're 3 ahead of us in terms of goal difference, but if we do win, we'll be on the same points as them, and only 3 points behind Manchester United. So really, to emphasise what we've said all the way up to the build-up to this game, we've got to win. The bottom of the league, the crap, they've scored about 6 goals at home all season. If we can't win there, then we need to have serious looks at each other. But 18 games unbeaten, exactly, they've been beating everyone. There's no reason to be sad.
Yeah, those players have been on the pitch dead confident. Like, we're brilliant and we've been really good. Especially last weekend, it seems like so long. Doesn't it seem, how long ago does that game feel? It just feels like as if we've been waiting for this game for ages. And I thought it was quite nice to have a football-free weekend, but just it was just a little rest. But yeah, no, I'm ready to go tonight. I'm dead excited about it. I'm sure that the players will be too. They should be well rested. It's a game that we should be going into thinking, right, we're gonna hammer these, especially with what Spurs did at the weekend yesterday. And if you look at the next few games that we've got, if we win tonight, win our next 2, that's us into the next round of the FA Cup. That's us giving ourselves a good gap over Spurs if we can beat them at home as well. So there's loads to be positive about, and there's loads to look forward to with this Liverpool side. And there's a lot of games coming up as well. Like, I don't think that's been talked about enough. There's a lot of games we're likely to see more Klopp rotation. You'd imagine he goes full strength tonight, and then there's a few changes at the weekend. But yeah, we shouldn't be worried about tonight, and we should be going in there and absolutely battering them.
Well, this schedule that you've just mentioned is the reason why I noticed. We keep an eye on what Reds are saying online and everything else over the weekend, and away from the papers and stuff, which we'll get onto. But I just noticed Reds in general having a bit of a chat about, Liverpool possibly not doing any more business here and possibly selling Daniel Sturridge. There's reports again today that he fancies the move to Seville, and he's basically urging Liverpool to make that happen. Inter Milan seem to be offering a loan fee, possibly leading to a permanent move. Right now, Seville aren't sort of matching that, so we'll see. But I mean, that's another person who can potentially win you a football match. Leaving the club after Phil Coutinho, I think lots of people are saying they'd still like Liverpool to do business, to take advantage of the place where they are in terms of well placed for the Champions League via the league, in the last 16 of the Champions League, a run in the FA Cup. Let's invest now and let Klopp continue with what has been a successful rotation policy. But we'll see. I mean, there's not actually sort of any new big links today. What there has been, though, is loads and loads of stuff from Jurgen Klopp, because what happens when there's no football match, loads of little quotes and loads of little interviews that happen with the manager get kept over, and then they put them out on Sunday and put them out on Monday because they know there's a huge space where a Liverpool match report would have sat in the newspaper. So there was plenty in the papers yesterday and today. Some interesting stuff from Klopp. He was asked about the Alexis Sanchez move, which everyone's still talking about. I wish he'd just, get this sorted. It really is boring now. He's going to earn loads of dough and he's going to play for Manchester United. We all get it. Arsenal hated him. We all get it. Just get on with it. Do the deal. Mkhitaryan going the other way. We get it. It's literally been like the back page of every newspaper for about 6 weeks, it feels like. But anyway, Klopp was asked about it. And he came out with some interesting comments. He says, no Liverpool player of this squad would leave to any other Premier League club during the season. It's quite a bold claim. It's how I see the commitments of the players. We are not together for 10 years or so. It's not just starting, but it's all still fresh, and the direction and the development is the right direction. I know it's far away from being perfect, but it's on a good way. It doesn't mean that players can't leave the club, but we have to make sure that it doesn't happen. I know now that Alexis Sanchez maybe moves from one club to the other. That was not what I thought about. But you asked me about Liverpool. I can't see any player at the moment who would do this. I just think that's really interesting to basically rule out ever selling a player to Manchester United, Manchester City, Tottenham, Arsenal, Chelsea. You're probably not going to sell them to Everton, that goes without saying. But equally, none of those are going to do business the other way then, if that's where you're going with it. But also as well, I think it sort of underlines that Klopp is huge on sort of personality and commitment. And maybe again, this is why we see, for instance, Coutinho go. But at the same time, we see him sticking with Emre Can, who obviously has got the question mark hanging over his head. But has looked committed in games, you know, had one of his best games in a red shirt against City. And the teams that they're still trying to persuade him to stay, but also a teams that he's not kicking up a fuss behind the scenes, he's not causing problems, he's not upsetting the apple cart.
I kind of believe him what he's saying. Like if you look at some of our best players, Firmino, Mane, Salah, I just don't see them going to, if City come in and tried to get them, I just don't see why they would do that and why they would take that risk. I think it feels like as a club we're sort of on the cusp of of trophies finally. I think we're in the best position, despite selling our best player. We're in the best position we've been in years. You can see that we're progressing each summer under Jurgen Klopp. We've got a manager that players want to play for. And I don't see why they would. I think if someone like Salah or Mane or Firmino eventually leave, I think it's for a club right up there. I think it's for your Barcelonas and Real Madrids, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. I think, it's interesting on Can. I think it's funny that it's been left this late, that we're still trying to work on a deal, and that's positive if it's true. I'm kind of worried that it's been done already. It's been done for months, and I know nothing about this. It's just a little niggle and worry that I have that that they might have just be keeping it quiet, so that, because you see what's happened with Goretzka. Goretzka's agreed to sign for Bayern, and then his fans are turning on him. So I just worry about that. And in terms of the transfers that he was talking about, and transfers you were talking about, I do think we need to get someone in, and I think that it's like you say, it's a massive risk in terms of risking Champions League football. And what happens if we have 2 injuries and we've not brought anyone in? Well, that's the risk. That you're losing out on the money from the Champions League. You're losing out on the games in the Champions League next season. And I think Liverpool, if a player is available, should sort of hedge their bets a little bit and maybe take a risk. The weird one for me really is the Lamar one, where we wanted Lamar in the summer, and then suddenly it seems as if Monaco are ready to play ball and are almost, trying to put little hints, or not even hints, they're trying to tell the media that they're up for selling Lamar, but just
he wants 90 million though.
I read somewhere it was the price was being brought down. You don't know who to believe in these.
I mean, over the weekend as well, he's now linked to Barcelona. Of course he is. So it's one of them.
But that could be his agent putting out something to try and scare Liverpool. You just don't know. It's all games in the transfer window, and my worry is not to be downbeat about it. My worry is that it feels as if it's like a premature closing of the transfer window for Liverpool at the minute, in terms of just not hearing about anything happening or anyone coming in.
I mean, for the cynics, it's a good time, if you like. It's a good time for a moan, because not only are we not really linked with anyone, not only does it not really look like we're going to be buying anyone, but also you've had Klopp saying, Lallana's like a new player, and
Woodburn isn't going out on loan.
Woodburn's not going anywhere. Neither Ings. Oxlade-Chamberlain's playing well, and it sort of feels like the beginning of a sort of covering tracks for actually not doing anything else in the transfer window, which would be a shame, because we are in a good position. But equally, there is another side of the coin. There always is for me, and when he's talking here about players not wanting to leave. Well, they've worked hard to get players of certain personality traits, of a certain style, to buy into what he wants as well. I mean, Oxlade-Chamberlain obviously turned down Chelsea to come here. So, I mean, we talked the other week on this about Sanchez, and you were like, well, I would have loved...
Does it just loved as many boss players playing for Liverpool?
But then I was arguing with you, because I was saying, but he's got a track record of basically being a tit.
Yeah.
And so why do you want a tit at your club? And Klopp doesn't want tits at his club.
I think as fans we're sort of guilty of looking into the short term rather than the long term. I'm looking at short term thinking, oh brilliant, get Sanchez in, he scores goals, he's a brilliant footballer. Klopp's looking at the long term project, And I saw people talking about Aubameyang and how Arsenal are after him and wondering, well, why aren't Liverpool in for Aubameyang? And well, he's played under Klopp, and Klopp's worked with him and knows exactly what he's about.
He's got a record of being a tit as well.
Exactly. So, you know, if Klopp's trying to build this sort of team, where this cohesive team whereby everyone works together and works towards the same goal, rather than bringing in these individuals like Man United seem to do, then he's not going to bring in a player like Aubameyang who might upset the apple cart and might come in and think he's this and that and he's paid more than everyone else. And so I see what he's doing. I think just as fans, we want transfers here and now. We're not happy if we get, I saw people talking about, our rivals are strengthening. Well, we've just signed a record signing in Virgil van Dijk that we've waited months for. So, but yeah, I can see both sides of the coin. I just think Jurgen Klopp probably knows best, and I think he's proven with the signings so far, whilst he's been at the club, that he knows best. That the majority of them look as if they're going to be. Or they have been good signings, or look as if they might end up being good signings, with maybe the goalkeeper's the one that isn't so far, or hasn't proved himself. No. But yeah, Klopp probably knows better than me, is what I would finish with.
Well, he's also been bigging up Sadio Mane. There was some kind of one-to-one meeting between him and between the manager and the player, following his decision not to pass in that derby, and he basically says that really affected his game, that he was gutted by it. He said he didn't need to mention it to him. He saw it in Sadio's eyes that if he could turn back the clock, he would do it. He basically says, I'm not going to big him up and say he was playing well when he wasn't, but he really does sort of believe he's getting back to his best now. Some great goals recently, obviously. He says, so let's build on that and ignore the rest. Perhaps easier said than done, but yeah, if Sadio does start contributing a lot more and we see more of the player that we saw last season, then fantastic, and those goals have certainly helped. One last one on the Reds before we go and look at the papers and what other clubs are doing and what we can laugh at. Mo Salah. Everyone stopped talking about Mo Salah, haven't they? Mo Salah is still boss. Mo Salah is still scoring lots of goals. And he's closing in now on 20 top-flight goals, 20 Premier League goals in one season. He's on 18 in the league at the moment. And he's on the brink of joining a list that includes only 4 Liverpool players in the Premier League area have scored 20 or more top-flight goals in a season, which is pretty poor, really, when you think about it, isn't it? Robbie Fowler twice, Fernando Torres, Luis Suarez twice, and Daniel Sturridge. So he's very, very close to joining that crew. Hopefully an hat-trick tonight will sort that out. And an hat-trick would also, and a clean sheet, would mean that we're back level with Chelsea in the league as well. So that would be nice as well. I'm starting to dream here. It's great. I'm looking forward to this game, so we can talk about stuff, we can talk about us tonking a crap side again. That'd be nice. 5-0 on Boxing Day, won't it? Let's do that again. All right, in a minute, back with the papers. All right, the papers. I bought the Sunday papers and the Monday papers, special treat for you. To be honest, I was a bit worried that there'd be nothing to talk about, but there's loads to talk about. A few little snippets. Sanchez, as you all know, you're all bored by that surely by now. He's going to sign for the Manx. It's pretty much done. He's took a picture of himself and it's on the back of the Mail in the shirt. He's going to be on nearly 600 grand a week when it's all totted up. Good for him. Some other little snippets as well that I picked out of the papers over the weekend. David De Gea has now kept 14 clean sheets for Manchester United this season, more than any other keeper in Europe's Big 5 leagues. So if we keep banging on about keepers and you have a problem with that, this is the reason why we're banging on about keepers, because he's a dead good one and he's just papering over the cracks for the Manx all the time. And if we had a dead good one, who knows?
Where would they be without him, by the way, over the last few years?
That's what I mean.
There's no way they would have won what they have won. There's no way they would have qualified for Europe in the way that they have. He's excellent. Did you see Alisson last night, by the way? Liverpool target Alisson just doing absolute bits for Roma. He took it round Icardi, Inter Milan's Icardi. He took it round him. And I think it was, I saw someone put the stat up, it was one take on. He got a take on for that. By a keeper, Liverpool, by a keeper.
Did he get an assist as well?
He got an assist, yeah. Just looked up, pinged it over the defence. Someone runs onto it. We've talked before, we just want a goalkeeper that saves shots, but if you're getting that on the side, then I'm all in.
£4.7 million Loris Karius is getting a big go though, so we'll see. Loads of you think that's a good decision, and that we'll get to see what he's finally like. 27 games wasn't enough for you, it seems. Okay. I mean, a couple of other things I wanted to talk about. What should we do first? Should we do Spurs or should we do Everton? Let's do Spurs.
Leave the best to the last.
Yeah, we'll leave the Everton bit to the last because that's quite funny. Spurs, I just thought this was interesting in that, you know, we always, as a set of fans, as Liverpool fans, I'm talking about the collective now, not just the Anfield app. It's hard not to worry sometimes about, you know, we're worrying about, you know, the loss of Coutinho, for instance. We're worrying about, shouldn't we be investing in this window, and why aren't we, that sort of type of things. But I started thinking yesterday, I was reading the papers and I thought, I wonder how worried you are right now if you're a Spurs fan. Because if Liverpool win tonight, as I mentioned earlier, Liverpool will be 5 points ahead of Spurs. They'll be sitting there outside of the Champions League places, which means they'll miss out on a load of dough if that was the case when we get to the end of the season. Now, the reason this is significant is that Real Madrid are interested in Harry Kane and are prepared to pay, according to the Sunday Times, Jonathan Northcroft, prepared to pay over £200 million to get him. Now, of course, Spurs have come out and said, well, you know, we don't want to sell and all that sort of stuff, and that's fine. But Harry Kane's already said in the past that he wants to win things. And if he's seeing a situation where he's not winning things, and he's seeing Real Madrid going, oh yeah, Harry, want to come over here? I mean, I know Real are a bit grim this season and the 5th in La Liga, but nevertheless. And also as well, that there's the money aspect. And what's interesting though is, it just feels like there could be loads of knock-on effects here. Because they've got to get in it, basically. They've got to get in the Champions League, Spurs. Why? Because they're moving to the new stadium. The new stadium they thought was going to cost 400 million. It's going to cost at least 750 million. And then there's loads of players with question marks basically over them. So, and I can never say his name. You say it, go on.
Oh, no, not me.
Alderweireld, Toby, that fella.
I'm the worst at pronouncing names, can't believe you asked me.
Eriksen and Dele Alli all need to renew deals because they're not on that much dough in the bigger picture. Pochettino's also on not that much dough as a manager, and apparently Real fancy him as well if things keep going the way they're going for Zidane. So there's all of these things. I mean, you know, Toby, he's on 50 grand a week. Eriksen's on 70 grand a week. Ali and Son are on 60 grand a week. I mean, this is a lot of money, obviously, but in the grand scheme of the Premier League, it's not a lot of money. And then this one, Harry Kane, the leading scorer, you know, the blue eye, the one everyone's talking about, the one everyone loves, 120 grand a week he's on. Ross Barkley's on more at Chelsea. Ross Barkley is on more at Chelsea. And then, yeah, Pochettino, Big Sam Allardyce gets more money than him, and he's the worst paid coach out of the Premier League's top 6. So, Spurs fans, if you're watching, you should be worried, shouldn't you? You think they should be worried?
All of those Spurs fans that watch Talking Reds every day.
But I'm just saying, I mean, we can have a bit of a laugh at them, but also it's a realisation, isn't it, that every set of fans worries a little bit about the club and the direction.
Almost, it feels like it's in the balance for Spurs a little bit with this season because, you know, never has the top 4, the competition for top 4 places been as strong as it is at the moment. And you just feel it if they lose Kane or if they lose Pochettino. I reckon if they lose Pochettino, then they lose Kane. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them both at Madrid together. If Pochettino went there, his first signing he would want to bring is Harry Kane. And this is all great, but this goes to show that Liverpool need to make the next 5 months count, because we need to get into top 4, because if we can sort of consign Spurs to a couple of seasons in the wilderness, and
Arsenal.
Yeah, and Arsenal as well. You see what's happening with Arsenal. They could be 8 points behind us tonight if we win. So if you know, in 6 months' time, you just don't know where Spurs will be, and it's the stadium as well. That stadium, the fact that it's going to cost so much more than what they expected, and that seems to be a running trend, or that seems to be something that's happening throughout football at the minute, is that a stadium's priced at this amount, and then 5 years later it's going to cost this amount. Everton, take note, Everton. So yeah, it's
the Poon camp.
I wouldn't fancy being a Spurs fan. I talked earlier about Liverpool, and you can sort of see the progression each season, and you can see the sort of direction that they're going under Jurgen Klopp, and we know that we've got him tied down for the long term, but Pochettino, if he doesn't get the funds, which it doesn't look as if Spurs are going to be able to afford it unless they sell some of their big players, then you could see him going.
So there you go. All right, the big one then, Everton. Here we go. I love this headline first off in the Mail today. Everton, in case you don't know, drew with West Brom at the weekend, booed off at half time, booed off on the final whistle, and the headline in the Mail: Everton spent £239 million on new talent in 12 months and they're still being booed off. Fantastic that, isn't it, really? Let's be honest. And also, a bit of a stat for you. After 38 minutes at Goodison Park, John Joe Kenny registered Everton's first shot on target in 251 minutes of league football.
Well, John Joe.
Basically, imagine watching that shit. Also as well, they're getting the blame for Watford's season being goosed, and they've also got Marco Silva the sack. So, they're absolutely flying, Everton, at the moment.
I'd be fuming if I was Everton, by the way. You've tried everything you can to get Marco Silva. That move's been blocked. You're basically begging Big Sam Allardyce to come to the club. You're paying him X amount. You're giving him a season and a half. And then Marco Silva's sacked after a couple of months. It's... and do you know what, on Everton, on the amount of money they've spent, it's the most Everton thing ever. The fact that they seem to get all this money at a time when all of the other Premier League clubs have money, and then when they do spend it, all of the players turn out to be absolutely shit. It's amazing. Yeah, and not so long ago, a lot of us Evertonians, and I know you watch, you said our heads were falling off. It's firmly on my shoulders, mate. You said there was going to be a Merseyside power shift. There hasn't been. So yeah, just keep on being Everton, because it's great. You're all like your manager now as well, don't you? It's all very Everton. On the Anfield app today, it is of course match day, match night, whatever you want to call it. So a few of the shows that you would ordinarily listen to today and tomorrow all sort of shift over a day. What you have got today though is the gutter, talking about potential transfer rumours, ins and outs and all that sort of stuff in detail, and there will also be a post-match show, fairly tight tonight. It will be straight after the final whistle, or as soon as possible. They'll be diving into the studio and recording something, so that'll be out there. The free show will be out there tomorrow, and the review, which is normally on a Tuesday, will be on a Wednesday this week. So loads of reasons to get involved. theanfieldapp.com/subscribe. Any other business? Yeah, Sweden and Norway tickets still on sale. They're free. You'll get them at www.theanfieldapp.com/tall live. All you have to do is sign up to Reds Bet. It's completely free. You don't have to deposit any money. You don't have to spend any money. And we've got 20% off all merch in store. Doing the marketing bits here. All the plugs there for you. That's been Talking Reds. There'll be another one tomorrow.